Hey guys, Double Wide 6 here, and what we're going to be doing today is taking an old propane tank and just making it an air compressor tank. So just one of those simple fill up tanks that you can take with you. They're portable, nice for filling up tractor tires, nice if you need compressed air inside. You know, if say you have a computer that's filled with dust, rather than running a hose all the way up into your house, you could just take your tank and blow it out. So this tank was actually free, and if you notice, it has the old style valve on it. The threads aren't on the outside, so they will not refill these tanks anymore. But the tank has no rust and it's in good shape, so I figured I would use it for this. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your tank is completely empty. So you can take a regulator like from a grill, hook that up, and open up the valve. This one's already open and this one is empty, and you can let the propane out. You want to keep in mind the propane is heavier than air, so it goes down to the bottom, so it's a good idea to flip these things over, open the valve, and let it drain out. And you want to do it in a safe place outdoors. So if you look around YouTube, I took a look, and you'll see a bunch of videos up there on how you can do this type of stuff. The main piece, you know, there's a lot of videos where people remove the valve and then they thread in a pipe there and then put a regulator on it. Well, I think by doing that, you're making the job a little bit more difficult. We can actually use this valve here, okay? Propane stinks. They put something called sulfates in propane, and that gives propane its bad smell. And the reason they do that is because propane, naturally, it doesn't have any smell to it. So they put the sulfates in case there's like a gas leak or something, you'll be able to smell it. So this tank, even though there's no propane in it, when I fill it with compressed air, it's going to smell like propane. So what we want to do is we want to fill this tank with water and dump it out, and do that several times to get that smell out of there. So this one is a Torx setting, or a Torx screw I should say. And that should pop right off our handle like that. The next thing that we have is we have a packing nut. Okay, and if we look very closely at the edge of that nut, I don't know if you can see it, but there's little indentations or notches going around. Here's what those indentations look like. And this is on a regulator that would screw into a propane tank for like your gas grill. Those indentations, when you're working with gas, that means that it's a left threaded bolt. So this packing nut is actually brass. You don't want to strip it, so it's a good thing to get a socket that goes all the way around it rather than an open end wrench. And plus, with this metal ring, you don't really have room to spin a wrench. So I'm just using, oops, it's reverse threaded. I'm just using my impact, and what that'll do is pull that valve out. The last thing that we're going to remove from our tank valve is this little thing here. There's like a, I'm not even sure what it is, but we're going to take that thing out. And then we should have access to our valve. So the next step will be to add some water. So there we go, we have that open, and you can look in there, and there's not too much going on in there. So now I have everything removed. I'm just taking a small screwdriver and putting that in there. You can see there's like a little hole in there. It's about 1/4 inch wide. I'm just poking down there to make sure that thing is open, and it is open. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some water to this thing and rinse it out and try and get some of that propane smell out of it. Alright, so now all we have to do is take our propane tank, put a funnel up there, take our hose, fill this thing up, Remember, it's only about a 1/4 inch hole, so you just got to go really slow. You might want to clamp or tie down the hose right there and let it run really slow. You can fill up the propane tank maybe about 4 or 5 times with water and then flip it over and dump it out. That's really going to help to get rid of those sulfates and that smell in that tank. You'll find the tank will take a while to dump out, and it'll also take a while to fill up, so just be patient, take your time. You know, it might take as long as 10-12 minutes for all the water to get out of it, but it's worth it because it really helps to get the smell out of there. You could even put in some soap, that might help as well with the smell. So the advantage of using the valve that's on top is that, number one, you don't have to buy any type of shutoff valve or go get pipes and fittings, and number two, this valve is hard to get off. They make special tools to take them off, and you know, we really don't need to remove it. What we're going to do is we're going to take this fitting off the regulator. You have this left-handed fitting, and then on the end of it is a 1/4 NPT fitting. And if I unscrew this from the regulator, this particular fitting should fit right onto an air compressor coupler. So I'm going to remove this now. So I just clamp it in my vise, and we can loosen up the fitting like so. So at this point, after you filled the tank about 4 or 5 times with water and dumped it out, you can now put the valves back on. So you can put the handle on this thing, you can put this little valve on here. This little valve, by taking that out, I don't think I mentioned it, what it does is it helps let a little bit of air in, and that helps allow the tank to drain when it's filled with water. So that's why we actually pulled that one out as well. At this point, we're ready to put this valve on here, but before we do, if you notice, there's a very small orifice on the end of this thing. We need to make that hole bigger. So I'm going to drill that thing out so that it's about a 1/4 inch diameter hole. It's easiest to drill it through the back. That way you get a nice straight hole. Alright, so now we have everything, so all we have to do is put this thing on and snug it down with a wrench, and we're going to put on our coupler here. So here's what this thing looks like after it's all together. I have my coupler on the end, and here's my air compressor hose, so they're not going to go together. So the easiest way to get it to connect would be to take a female and a male air compressor fitting with a little bit of Teflon tape and put those together. Alright, let's try and fill this thing up. So, first thing you want to do is open up your quick connect, put your coupler on there. You need to make sure your valve is opened all the way up. You're going to take your air hose, put that thing on there. I'm set at 100 psi, so that's what I'm going to pressure it up to. Takes about 20, maybe 25 seconds to fill up. So we'll shut that off. We can remove our coupler. There we go. And if I open this up, no air should come out because we have a coupler on there. So we'll close the valve and try and let some air out of this thing. You can see that valve works nice. I don't see any leaks or hear anything. So now what I'm going to do is flip it upside down and open it up and try and get any of that remaining water I had in there out of there that I used to rinse the thing out. So we're going to play around and see how this thing works. I actually have a roofing gun shooting 1.5-inch roofing nails. We'll see how many nails it'll shoot. Shooting a lot more than I thought it would. Well, I'm not going to count anymore, but this is pretty good. As you can see, it set those right in the wood, and like I said, they're 1.5-inch roofing nails, so I didn't know it would do that many. So anyhow, that's a pretty good tank. If I had to put some trim up inside or something and I didn't want to lug in a compressor, that thing's a lot lighter than an air compressor. It's also a lot lighter than a propane tank that's filled with propane. So I think this thing will be pretty handy and I'll be able to use it. So anyhow, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I just made this thing just kind of for fun, something to do, and looks like it's going to be pretty useful once in a while. So anyhow, I'm Double Wide 6. I got a bunch of videos on my channel. You can check them out. I'm going to put a link on the bottom of this video to a coupler set that you can get from Amazon if you're planning on making one of these tanks. Thanks and have a great day.